Okay. So hi Arun sir, nice to meet you today. Meet you actually today, and thank you for interviewing with me today for the Harmony newsletter. So the first question that I have for you is, what made you choose this profession when you were a child? Like, did you always think that you would become a doctor, and why did you actually get into it?
Well, as far as I can recollect, as a child, I wanted to be a doctor. And I suppose that was because my maternal grandfather was a doctor, and he qualified in Edinburgh. And then when he went back to India and he practiced there. And I heard many stories about how he served his patients, and how he actually did a lot of work for the poor people. And that enthused me, and I had never wavered from that. Uh, I hadn't. I know my father wanted me to be an engineer, but that didn't interest me at all. Uh, so uh, I'm very pleased that I am where I am.
Right. And like when you initially moved to the UK, what was life there for you? Like, did you face any sort of specific challenges that you would like to highlight or anything you
Oh
fought
man,
for?
there's a yeah. I have lots of challenges. Now, at the time, I mean, I moved to England in 1962, I think, 61 or 62. And at that time, there was a rumor going on in in India and Pakistan that the governments were going to stop Indian doctors from going abroad. So every ship was full of, because doctors were trying to get to UK. So that was one problem. Problem was to find a place, some form of transport to how I could get to United Kingdom. They gave me 2 weeks' notice because there was a cancellation in a boat. So I sailed from Mumbai, Mumbai, and arrived in Tilbury. So that was one problem. The other problem was, of course, and I'm not. I think your listeners will probably understand. My, I had great difficulty in getting a job, simply because I had no experience of any job. I qualified and I left. I never done any jobs in India. And of course, for every junior job, I mean, I'm talking about the lowest job, like a houseman, there used to be about 250 applicants, and they used to interview 25 to 30 people at a time. So it took a long time. And eventually, when I got the job, they offered me the job. My first job was very difficult because it was in Liverpool. And I don't know if you know, the accent in Merseyside is very difficult. So I couldn't understand what the patient was saying to me. The patient understood what I was saying to him. So the ward sister used to actually translate, and I used to answer. And the other problem I had was that I thought everybody looked ill. I couldn't tell from their complexion whether they were ill or not. And that's very disconcerting. So I had a similar experience many years later when I went to Nigeria for a year. Again, I couldn't tell if they were ill or not. And I couldn't understand what they were saying. So those were real big problems I had. It takes time to get accustomed to see. It was very interesting that when I was in Nigeria, after about a month, I began writing, "Oh, the patient looks pale." Now, and I said, "That's very interesting." So I actually spoke to my colleagues who had been in Nigeria for a long time, and we discussed, and it transpired that really when we look at somebody, what is it that tells you whether somebody is ill or not? It's not, it's the complexion of the skin. The skin is an organ in itself. And when you get, it is a complexion. So I'm sure you'll know that your friends or family members must have said, "Oh, you don't look well." And that's because of a complex change in the complexion. People who work together or live together, they can tell the slight alterations in complexion. But that takes time. That takes time. So those were my early recollections, quite apart from the fact that when I went to when I attended interviews, they used to ask very condescending questions. For instance, I was asked in an interview, can you tell the difference between the proximal end of a urethral catheter from the distal end? You know, they were really quite, how can I put it, insulting questions. So that sort of thing happened in those days. Of course, as you know, in the 60s, racial prejudice was not only acceptable, but it was quite rampant. So those were the difficulties. But I have to confess that I am very lucky that despite all that, I have managed to survive without any grudge or without any chip on my shoulder. I'm a happy man. But that's a great gift, great gift.
Right,
Does that?
absolutely. Yeah, that's so nice to hear from you, Arun sir. So, going back to that part where you mentioned that there were some condescending questions that were asked to you, and how
Yeah.
racial prejudice was super rampant that time. Do you think it's still going on over there in some parts? And is it anything different from what you experienced back then versus in today's day and age, what's happening? Or is it more or less like the same, like basically differential treatment that's going on?
Well, Ritwika, before I answer that question, may I just say something to you? Discrimination and prejudice are not the monopoly of this country. When I say this country, United Kingdom, it exists everywhere. It is normal. But having said that, we all have our duty as a citizen to fight for removal of prejudice, removal of inequalities. And that would go on. It's nothing new. This country is not the only place. You just look at your own country, India. I think India is probably the worst country for discrimination and prejudice. It discriminates on various colors. Here we have a discrimination on color or religion. In India, you have hundreds of discriminating things. So I don't blame this country. I think this country is not unusual, but we still have to fight for injustice, against injustice. Does that resonate with you?
Right. I wanted to get like a sense of did you champion any cause, or did you like spearhead any movements that would go against this
Well,
differential
right. Okay,
treatment?
I get what you're after. No, it took at every stage in my career, I faced this problem, but I had accepted that that is a situation I have got to accept. So I fought it by persevering. All right. If that sounds odd to you, but you see, every time there are so many occasions when junior people, doctors much more inexperienced and junior to me got the job. Eventually, when I got to the top of the grade as a senior registrar, beyond that, you became a consultant. I had great difficulty. I made what, 66 applications, and I attended 33 interviews before I got a job as a consultant. And that's where I am on the Isle of Wight. And Ritwika, God works in funny ways. I think I am here, I was sent here for a purpose. I had the unique pleasure, not very many doctors have, of building a practice. It was fantastic. I built up a department, I built up And when you serve people, it is a unique sense of achievement, a sense of, if you like, uh, fulfillment. It's patients who give you that. And I cannot, my patients were happy with me. I was happy that I was doing something good for somebody. That's, but it still exists. I'm in the process. I fight for all sorts of causes. I first fight for unfairness, and that's my almost full-time job now. Where I fight because I'm not frightened. God has given me that gift. I fight as I am able to. He's given me lots of gifts. I'm able to speak. My brain is still active, so I've got to use them. Use those gifts for other people. I'm not the sort of guy who would like to retire to go on the beach or go on holidays or things like that. I want to continue serving humanity for as long as God allows me to do so. And that's the best form of service that you can think of. So does that help you?
Yeah, it's so nice to hear from you, and like your whole passion and dedication for this field. So you did mention that you like, your brain is active. So
Yeah.
on a lighter note, like outside work, what are your
Yeah.
various hobbies and interests that you pursue that, helps you remain calm and helps you keep your brain active even now?
Oh, a very good question. I think one of the essential things in brain remain active is interaction with people. And this is where I found the pandemic of 2 years of restrictions intolerable. Uh, Zoom meetings were awful. I mean, they still are awful because you cannot interact with people. And when you meet people face to face, your ideas, the interaction gives rise to ideas and they mature. So I found that the absence of that facility to be very trying. And now, of course, I'm trying to get over my fear of the bug because I'm an old chap and I've got lots of other, how can I put it, conditions which make me vulnerable. So I choose my meetings very carefully. But that's one thing. When you ask me for lighter subjects, well, I'm very keen on music. I mean, I have to confess, I'm terrible. I cannot play any instrument, but I love music, and I reside. And when time permits, I do a lot of photography. Uh, but those are things which I don't actually put a separate time. It happens when I'm not, when I've got some time for. But music is probably my most favorite pastime. I love listening to music. My taste in music is very Catholic. I like pop music. I like jazz. I like classical music. I like Indian music, particularly bhajan. I like Tagore's music. The interesting thing is that I don't actually understand most of the stuff. But I can feel from my heart what the music is about. And I give you, we held a huge meeting, public meeting, concert if you like, on the Isle of Wight to raise money for a charity in India. And there was a guy who came from Portsmouth and he sang bhajan. He had a lovely voice. And he sang a few songs and then I went up to him and I said, I'm terribly sorry, but to tell you that I did not understand a word, but I listened. I could feel the meaning of what you're saying. And he said to me, that's the best compliment you can give me, is that you heard me from your heart. And it was lovely to be told that. So that's what, and of course, I'm blessed with lots of friends. I like entertaining. I like drinking with people, having a chat. It's wonderful. I adore those activities and I culture them because friendship is something that you have to nurture. And I have lots of friends. I mean, when I use the word friends, I use it advisedly. They're good friends. I see them regularly. They are from India, from England, from all over. Uh, it's a wide circle. My wife is German. Uh, we are a very international family. My son married a Spanish lady, so it's a bit interesting because again I'm very lucky that I don't subscribe to any nationality because I think we belong to this world, and it is our business to be interested in people from all over the world.
That's true. That's very, very true. What you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you speak of like friendship and friends, if your friends had to describe you in a few words, what would they be?
Oh, I haven't a clue. Because I don't know my friend, well, I don't know what they would say. I do know that they sometimes find me very intense because if I'm focused on something, I sometimes bore them stiff. Uh, I don't readily accept no as an answer. I persevere. So I don't know what my friends would, how they would describe me. I'll have to wait till I die when they tell the truth.
I'm sure they
I'm
must be
sorry,
saying like nice things about you.
sorry.
I'm sure they must be saying nice things about you.
Hope so. I hope so.
Yeah, they
I've never asked them what they think of me. My wife tells me what she thinks of me, tells me off.
and what is that, if I may ask?
Oh, she's always criticizing me. So, but she's German. She thinks she's the best.
Right. So do you also know a little bit of German as well, like
No,
language?
no. But I don't know if you have heard German people speak, but they speak in paragraphs, not sentences. They stop to take a breath
Yeah, yeah,
and they talk very fast.
yeah,
So I have given up trying to learn the language. But
yeah,
my my wife speaks fluent English, so I have no problem. In fact, I have her family, they all speak English. So I have no powerful incentive to learn the language, if you see
right,
what I'm saying. Because
right.
had they not spoken English, I would have learned, I think.
Yeah, it would be like a no way out. You would need to learn German.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
communicate.
no, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So is there anything that, you were talking about you liking Rabindranath Tagore songs and bhajans? So that just
Yeah.
reminded me, like, is there any part or is there any specific memory or aspect that you miss about India a lot over there?
Oh gosh, yes. Well, I miss my family. They're still there. My sisters are there. One sister is in America. Um, I miss them, and I miss the fruits and the vegetables and the flowers. This, the fragrance of the flowers in India, you don't find it in England because nowadays a rose has no smell in this country. It's all genetically produced and tampered with. And I suspect that's what they're doing to Alfonso mangoes. They're tampering with nature. Uh, have you ever tasted Alfonso mangoes?
Yeah, I have it every day here.
Do you? Yes, well,
Yeah,
if you're in Bombay, you'd get it.
yeah,
But
I get it every day
the,
here. Yeah.
the quality is, there's something going down.
No, for Alfonso, it's fine. It's like it's the king of fruits. So it's like,
I know, I love Alfonso. The
yeah.
season, but they are tampering with how they grow. I
Hmm.
suspect
Yeah.
because they rot quite quickly, and they sometimes have a bug. But that's sad. But I love it. We get it. I have to go to London to get my Alfonso. Man, very expensive.
Wow. Yeah, I can
Two,
imagine.
it's over £2 a mango. £2 is 200 rupees for one mango.
Yeah, I know.
Roughly.
Oh my
So,
God.
but the fruits and flowers, they're really wonderful in India.
And is there any like favorite dish, Indian dish that you absolutely devour?
Indian dish. Well, I like, I, I like, if you like the Islamic cooking,
Right.
I can put it as a generic terms. I like the type of yogurt. It's a special type of yogurt. Oh, you get it only in Bengal. That's sweet mishti doi, they call it, a lal doi.
Yeah, mishti doi.
And yeah, but it's Islamic food that I enjoy most. So, but any food, good food, well cooked, I like.
Right. So, moving back to the whole angle of like you being a doctor and like you knowing it from the start that you would have become a doctor. But let's
Yeah,
say that it's an alternate universe, okay? So, if
yeah.
not a doctor, then what would you probably imagine yourself to become? Like the next best thing?
Oh, you see, I don't know the actual answer to it, but if you're asking me what would be if I felt that another form of occupation would have allowed me to do something better, I don't know the answer to that. You know, something, if I can answer the question rather obliquely, I believe firmly that all of us have been sent to this earth with a mission. And all of us have been given all the talents we would require to fulfill that mission. And our challenge is to actually identify what the bloody thing, what the mission is. I'm still struggling. When I say my prayers in the morning, I ask, am I doing the right thing? I cannot think. What is really important is to, whatever occupation one chooses, one has to do his or her best in that job. If it's a sweeper's job, mission, do it well. Take pride in what you're doing. That's what I do in medicine as a doctor. And I know that people sometimes talk about, oh, I could have been much more successful in private practice and something like that. But private practice is not something that has ever attracted me. Because here we are lucky in this country, in the NHS. It's probably the most civilized form of medical system. I know it's not perfect, but when we see patients, we do not think of money. Patients do not worry. If they are ill, they come to the hospital, they come to see a doctor. They don't have to think about how am I going to pay. Now that's a unique, a real unique opportunity that patients have. And I call it, this is why I say probably the clearest example of being civilized and caring. You don't think about, you shouldn't, everybody who is ill should not have to worry about money to get better. I know my Indian friends who are rather arrogant sometimes. They say, oh, in India we can get this, get an MRI scan, a CT scan done within 24 hours. I said, fine. But the day you can tell me that every patient can get that done in India, I will acknowledge that you are better. This can only, all this good practice in India that you talk about is only available to the rich, not to the poor. And that makes only less than a third, to put it more effectively, more than 2/3 of the people in India do not get that form of medical care. Am I wrong?
I mean, that's
You live
right.
in,
But then the thing is that, like if you compare the populations of UK versus that of India, so with that index, there's also like another disparity that comes into the picture.
no, 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 I'm not talking about, I'm talking about a system.
Yeah,
Uh, it's a philosophy, it's a system that needs, that's what I'm talking about. The population of it's a poverty. Now India is supposed to be the third, I think the third economic, highest economy. Advise me. India is quite rich now. It can provide, it should provide its population with education, with healthcare, things like that. But I think it's people who make the difference. In India, you have example after example where individuals have actually set leadership, set a standard for themselves and for the society they are serving. India is renowned for that. All of us can think of your relatives or friends who are really caring for others. And that's what matters at the end of it. That is what will make India great.
right. No, absolutely. That makes sense. Like you've given some really good food for thought, to think about. And speaking of that, if there's any particular, like this is the last question. So if there's any particular 2 or 3 points of wisdom that you would like to provide us youngsters who are just, starting off with their careers in any field, in any country, what would it be? Because you are a pioneer of your field.
Well, I think my advice to youngsters contemplating to become a doctor or a nurse is to understand that being a doctor and being a nurse are vocational. It's a vocation to be a doctor. It's like being a priest. Priest is a vocation. We should not detach. Sadly, but the modern doctors are deviating very quickly towards what I think is against the ethos of our profession. And it doesn't matter whether you're a doctor or not. It is the same. You do your job as to the best of your ability and you serve. Now, don't misunderstand me. A lawyer, for instance, who actually charges you, he has to actually do his best to defend you, to fight your case. As long as he does that, that's what matters to you as a person, as a recipient, or you as a person who's delivering that. So that's I feel very strongly, and I've got so many things to say of it because the world is changing very quickly. We are becoming more selfish. We're becoming far more and more concerned about ourselves rather than our society. The other question is how corrupt politics has become. Everywhere, it's corrupt. If you have politics corrupt, and this is where, and there is, I think it's all over. In our country, corruption is just rampant. If you look at America, it's just the same. And all these guys, when you look at this, everywhere, you look at every society, communist or otherwise, they're all corrupt. So what is the answer? I do not know. It's a very sad world, I think. I'm sorry to put it so much.
No problem. Like you spoke from your heart, and that's what is really what we want.
No, it's not so much from my heart as my observation. Or maybe that's because I'm old. I'm seeing it with my retroscope, what it used to be like.
Right.
but that is reality. And I don't know, I feel sorry for your generation or the generation to come. Um, because if that's the world we are leaving behind, it's not a very great compliment to us.
Mm, right.
Uh, yeah. Uh, you've now formed an opinion about me. I'm a great big bore.
Absolutely not. It was a
Eh?
lot of fun chatting with you, and
Yeah.
thank you so much for speaking your mind out today.
Thank you for allowing me to do that.
Yeah.